Most men think boundaries are walls, and they're not. A real boundary is a glass box, and it's a glass box that has a door, right? It has a door that she can open and close. Stay with me. She can see everything, right? It's glass. She can look around. She can see everything. She can step out. But she knows exactly what happens when she does. She knows what's outside of those boundaries. So, in a sense, you're giving her free choice. She can do whatever she wants. Like you're a free woman. You can do whatever you want. You can see what's on the other side of the boundaries. You can step outside the boundaries. You're free to do whatever you want. But what happens outside that glass box is anyone's guess. She doesn't know what will happen. That's what a boundary is. You don't have to enforce it. It's just there. She just knows it. It's not like strictly enforcing. It's yeah, you're free to do whatever you want, and then I'm free to react as much as I want, right? Or I'm free to do whatever I want. You know, if you're going to stay out with your friends till 3 a.m., I'm free to leave the relationship. Like that's fine. You have the choice. You had the choice. You stepped out of the glass box. So today what we're going to talk about is how to install boundaries so she respects them without you having to say like you can't do this or you can do that. Because I don't condone any man ever strictly enforcing boundaries. As a man with frame, you should never have to strictly enforce boundaries. They should just be there. She should know and she should respect them. No different than how we stop at a red light, right? We know that's the rule. We obey it. We know the consequences if we do it. And you don't ever have to yell. There's no ever other forms of any sort of manipulation, no form of abuse or anything. It's like, you're free to do what you want. Like, I'm not here to control you. You're free to do whatever you want. And this really confuses a lot of guys because it's like if they lose that control, they're like, oh, right, what do I do? You know, you don't need to control someone else. She's a completely unique person. She can do whatever she wants. So what you actually need to do here is you need to set clear limits on acceptable behavior. And this is how you restore leadership when your frame is lost. Now, a lot of guys lose frame because they think they establish boundaries, or maybe they talk about boundaries, but then they don't enforce the boundaries, or there's no consequences for when she breaks the boundaries. It's not about control. Like I said, they are the structure that allows the freedom inside the relationship. I want to repeat that because it's a very important point. The boundaries are the structure that allows the freedom inside the relationship, right? You have freedom, she has freedom. You guys both have that available to you. So, here's some more common ones that I always recommend. And like I said, these don't have to be explicitly stated. These are just they're there, right? It's a glass. You can see the rules on the other side of the wall. You can choose what you want to do with it. No male friends. No late night partying. No excessive spending. No mistreatment of the kids. And no cheating. Duh. Like that's obvious. And the key point to understand here is everyone has different sets of boundaries. When I work with a lot of guys, sometimes they have really loose boundaries, and we work closely together to tighten them up a little bit. But sometimes guys just really don't care about things. Other time, guys are really passionate about things, and she's broken those boundaries already, and I help him recoup his frame so he can start working on that. So then one of the first things we work on is understanding there's two ways to install boundaries. There is subconscious, which is the preferred method, and then there's explicit stating of boundaries. Now, we use the first one a lot. I don't use the second one. I don't use explicit stating of boundaries very often at all. Because when you explicitly put something out into the world as a man, you have to stand by it. And if she breaks that boundary, now you have to either suffer the consequences or you have to stick to it. So how do you do the subconscious? Daily language patterns and actions without her direct confrontation. This could be the way you talk about things. This could be the way you do or don't like things. This could be the way that you talk about her friends or her family, or when different things interact, you can give your opinion on things. Now, explicitly stating boundaries is usually short, firm, they're non-negotiable statements delivered with calm conviction. So this would be something like, I don't want you to go out with your friends tonight. If you go out with your friends tonight, our relationship is over. I'm saying this as an actual example because I've heard this from guys. But then what happens, she goes out with her friends. She's like, screw this guy. She goes out with her friends. She comes back and he just lets it go. She knows he's a complete pushover, has zero frame, right? And she probably even slept around with another guy. So try not to state explicit boundaries, because once you put it out there, you have to follow with the consequences. So now guys are asking, they're like, how do you enforce boundaries without losing frame, right? She might break a boundary every now and then. She might slip and like cross a boundary, right? Maybe she steps outside the box. Maybe she bangs on the glass box and she breaks the glass and she walks around and she's like, oh no, whoops, my bad. People make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. What we talk about is dolphin training, right? When she does good behaviors, you want to reward the behavior you want. And you withdraw attention from the behavior you don't. It's no different than like kids. If you have kids, I have two boys, right? When they do something really good, you praise them, you benefit them. And when they don't do something you like, you withdraw. You don't reinforce the behavior that you don't like. So it's positive reinforcement. And one of the key ways to do this, hopefully you've already taken my other courses or you pay attention to my frame content, is you already know her love language, right? And then so you can use positive love language to reinforce, and then you can use mild negative body language, these kind of things. You can go do something else. Maybe if if her love language is quality time and she crosses a boundary, then maybe you'll go out that night, right? Maybe you'll just go to a bar. Maybe you'll go somewhere and just read a book. Maybe you'll just go somewhere and sit in your car for a couple hours just to get away. Now, where a lot of guys mess up is they feel like they need to explain. They feel like they need to justify these things, or that they need to like argue with her. Like she already crossed the boundary. She knew she wasn't supposed to do it, assuming you are doing everything appropriately. So you don't ever explain, you don't ever justify, and you don't ever try to argue with her. So I have an example of the guy that I work with, and he would argue over the stupidest little things. He would argue over his girl would stay out late night with a coworker and they had a single fight, and then it went on, and then he argued about it, but he never did anything about it. He never like reinforced the boundary or anything. So she just kept doing it. She would do it like once a month and then again. And then eventually they started having a lot of marital trouble because she started developing a relationship with this other person. And I told him, when I talked to him, I was like, the signs were there, and we started going backwards. And he was like, yeah, if you went back all the way to the first time when he said that he didn't want to, and he just let her do it, right? So it was like she stepped outside that glass box, which is fine. You're a free woman. You can do whatever you want. But he didn't. There was no repercussions for it. So the key where guys mess up a lot, as it did with that example, is they're inconsistent. They get emotional and they start like yelling. You don't ever want to yell at your girl, especially as a man in 2026. You get caught yelling at a girl, like she's going to file some dumb domestic violence claim on you. You don't make the boundary too rigid or too soft. People make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. You've made mistakes. I've made mistakes. The girls make mistakes. It happens. It's not the end of the world, but so don't be too rigid about it. Or you bring up the past. Like if she broke a boundary, you leave it in the past. If you broke a boundary, it stays in the past. You don't just keep bringing these things up to the present. Once it's done and you've talked about it and you've handled it, it's in the past. I don't want to talk about that again. This is a boundary I firmly established in my relationship. You can ask me one more thing about this and we're never talking about it again. Do not bring this up again. And if she brings it up again, I don't go explaining things. I say, I told you we're not talking about this. And she brings it up again, I'd be like, what did I tell you last time we talked about this? And I'll keep repeating that same question until she repeats, well, you said you didn't want to talk about it. Okay, good. We talked about it. We're done. Don't bring it up. And this is how you nip these things in the butt so they don't keep coming back. These are just some of the strategies we use, right, when we're establishing frame. But if you're a man without boundaries, and you're a man without frame. Like if your girl breaks boundaries, you got zero frame. 0, 0, 0. And you need to start working on that right now before it completely wrecks your relationship, right? Because what happens is she breaks the boundary, maybe she steps outside the box gets a little bit bigger, right? She steps outside the box again, she pushes on the glass, she's like, oh, I can actually kind of push these glass panes out, right? The box gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Next thing you know, there's no boundaries whatsoever. The glass box is just taken off and it's, she doesn't even see anything, right? Because she could already see the boundaries, but now there's nothing even to at least like help her a little bit, right? There's no red light to tell her to stop. There is no crosswalk to tell her where to cross the road. There's nothing, there's no guidance, right? Because she knows those boundaries don't actually exist. So you have to be consistent. Now, boundaries is huge in relationships, and it gets broke over and over and over. And this is one of the core pillars of the things that I work on with guys. Inside the full program, we also talk about the list frame, we talk about the circle frame, and we talk about some advanced enforcement strategies, right? Not enforcement, but advanced strategies that'll help you really get the boundaries locked in. And if you feel so good about yourself, then it's like, even if she breaks the boundary and you have to walk away, you win. You win either way. So if you're done watching about boundaries and you're done getting walked on, check out my links. Check out the link below, and you can talk about fixing your marriage and avoiding divorce and never ending up in a situation where you have to explain boundaries to your girl.